show of music and art. I've done 80-something shows, and they've all been about music, and added the word "and art" at the end because I want to expand. I want to expand my horizons, and I have a poet. That's why I'm wearing these cool shades also. Are you okay?
Yes.
And that's why I'm wearing these cool shades, because today I have a good friend of mine, an excellent poet and playwright and lyricist. His name is Steve Kalinich. When I first met him, he taught me how to remember his name because it's like spinach, only Kalinich. Let me see.
Kalinich, but it's close enough.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. He has written with P.F. Sloan, written songs with P.F. Sloan, who wrote Secret Agent Man and Eve of Destruction. He wrote for the Supremes, the disco group Odyssey, Randy Crawford, and the famous Rod Steiger. Is that how you say his name?
Well, I'm actually helping him. I didn't really write for him, but I'm helping him with his poetry album.
Yeah, he's a famous poet. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Kalinich.
Hi. The Magic Hand. Poems can never make adequate explanations for man and his many hesitations and his constant deviation from what is real. They love me through wooden eyes. The tree of love in one heart lies. The bough brushes gently along the ground, for waiting souls long to touch it. It's mystical and deep and sorely needing, and cautious and slow to constant heating, and has been eternally bleeding. It lies in deserts and in the sand. In mountains one can sense the hand that molded shelf by shelf the lower and the higher self, and placed man somewhere in between what is and what seems to have been, the spark of all and the machine. It asked him only to obey the heart within, the only way. From ancient histories of the past, through destructions and nuclear blast, the only breath that one sees last is the breath of love. Through its nostrils clean, it breathed pure air, till man put hate and impurities there, pervading the atmosphere, released by thought, separating each from the eternal ought. Not ought to be or ought to do, but the ought of spirit, which told the secret there is no man, no woman, no sex, no creed, no race, but only spirit on a constant chase toward itself, shelf by shelf, building, growing, and forever flowing. The hour is approaching, the animal is dying, the soul is moving upward and forever trying. Dissolving all that came before, the new man speaks as one who knows, not with words of brass or steel-edged lies or pleading groans or cries. He speaks of all that there can be in living the life of eternity, which does not begin for visitors of the earth, but those that live in the here and now. The dead are walking down the street. Look at them. Each other's eyes constantly meet, and they know in their heart that death is necessary for one to grow. They must die to old thoughts, old habits, and live with what is new. And that is man that has a heart that flows into all hearts, that lifts up and laughs and purifies. On the other side of death is life, and life is loving. And zombies who gather together in congregations and mass strangulations feel the bubble is bursting because their soul is thirsting for a touch of the hand, the magic hand that with fingers finer than pure gold, fingers not made of flesh or bone, fingers that are all things. This magic hand echoes as a symbol in every land, that itself, it is a part of every man.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. That was called The Magic Hand. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was on the poetry album I did with Brian Wilson about 25 years ago called A World of Peace Must Come.
Now, you recorded an album of pure poetry with Brian Wilson, correct?
Yes, poetry and a few kind of folks chants, I would guess. I'm not the world's greatest singer, but they were kind of chanted. And there was some music behind them, and Brian played the organ on some, and I recited, and one of them now is out on the internet, not on the internet, but on the black market, bootleg. It's called America I Know You, America I Love You, and Brian produced it 31 years ago, and it's on an illegal record that's out there now.
Wow. When did you get to know Brian Wilson, or how did you get to know him?
66 or so. I walked into the Brother office, which a friend of mine who worked for Jay Ward that created Bullwinkle, he said, you should go see Brian Wilson, Brother Records. And I went in there, and they kind of flipped out over the poetry and the music, and then they introduced me to Brian, and he signed me up. And
when you walked in, you know, when you walked in, because this show has kind of always been kind of geared for the up-and-coming musician and all, or anybody that wants to be successful. When you walked in, did you just introduce yourself and immediately like burst into poetry, or
kind of almost like that? On those days, I came in with paper bags instead of just loose books and like that, and they were shabby bags, and it was like you'd think I was homeless, which I was pretty close to being homeless anyway. And I would just walk in, but usually I would do them from memory, and I said, Jim so-and-so told me to come see you, and I met the outer people in the office, and they arranged for me to meet Brian, and then later I met Dennis.
I see. Now, I want to ask you just a little bit more about the creative process, but one thing I'm curious about, when you were reciting your poem, I was thinking, my God, how does that guy remember them? Now, do you, when you remember them, is it because you repeated it so many times, or do you have like a photographic memory? Do you see the words go by and type in your brain, or how does that work to build?
I have no idea. It just seems to be there, hopefully most of the time. Once in a while it's not there, and if it does, I change it. So that's why almost every time you hear me recite, it might be a little different, because I don't remember it exactly all the time.
Now I want to fill in the audience on a little thing too, because occasionally I'm going to say spontaneous poetry and say a word, and then Steve has agreed to burst into like some spontaneous poetry when I give that word. I'm not going to do it yet, only when you least expect
I may
it.
combine it with some stuff, but I'll try and be spontaneous as I can.
So you wrote with Dennis Wilson too, right? What was the? I remember when I used to be in the retail record business for many years. I remember this record, Dennis Wilson. In fact, I just watched a program on A&E, I think it was last night or the night before, on Dennis Wilson. He had a very interesting life. He was involved with Charles Manson and all that stuff for a while.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm not too interested in talking about that part, if you don't mind, because I mean, it's been done, and it's overdone, and it's a little bit negative. I know it's interesting, but
yeah, okay.
Is that okay?
That's fine. Spontaneous poetry, Ocean.
Never before in galactic span has been told the tale of man. Defies all bound, defies all space, upsets all theories, and in their place puts wisdom of the ancient race. Stories of creation thrown from oceans to the deepest realms of outer space, of man who left his home from stars among the universe and found the earth alone, without form, cold, barren, uniform, no room to differentiate choice from predetermined fate and save the world before it is too late.
Wow, that was pretty good. All right, that was Ocean, huh? Spontaneous. Okay, let's talk about Dennis Wilson for a second. You wrote a song on here. What was it called?
I wrote Rainbows with him. Originally, he asked me to help him produce the album, but I didn't do it. I don't know why I didn't. I kind of wish I had, but Greg Jacobson produced it with him. And the Rainbows song is a beautiful song.
When you wrote with him, did you write the lyrics and he made the music on the piano? He played piano
Usually
too, right?
I wrote the lyrics first, then he put the music, but it would work both ways. But that was normally the way it went. And
you were on a Beach Boy album too, right?
Yes.
What was the name of that record?
I was on different ones. I was on the Friends album. I wrote Little Bird and Be Still on that album. Be Still, I got the idea from the Bible where it says, be still and know that I am God. In stillness all truths can be revealed, all mysteries. And that was the song, and that came out in 1968.
That was Little Bird?
That was Be Still.
Be Still, that's
Little Bird came out as the flip side of Friends as a single in 1968. I was very excited.
No kidding. In fact, we brought the CD so we could play a little bit. I think they might be ready to play a touch. Oh, there it goes. Let's hear it.
Tree looked down and sang the song to me of how it began.
It's a good memory.
It's a good memory. What do you remember? What's your
I
most
remember
vivid
Dennis and I were sitting up at his tree hut on Sunset Boulevard, which was the old Will Rogers estate, one of them. And I left the lyrics. I was looking out the window of his piano, and I wrote a little bird up in a tree, looked down and sang a song to me of how it began. And I left the lyrics on his piano, and he called me the next day and had the melody to it, and then within 6 weeks it was out all over the country. But the original thought, the lyrics changed a little. I had things like, before things become real, they are first in your mind. A love thought draws others of its kind. So cling to every thought that is real, and your life will be free. Free from strife, free for love in which to grow. The little bird looked down and sang a song to me. Now that part got edited out of the song, but this is way before all the New Age movement and all that stuff, but there was the leaning there toward being still, letting all our senses be silent and looking inside ourselves for the answers to the problems that we're confronting, to violence, to war, to hatred, to all the inner and outer demons that we're still facing in this world.
Is that Dennis Wilson singing the lead vocal?
Yes, that's Dennis singing the lead vocal.
Yes.
He has a little crack in his voice, which I found very appealing and had a lot of feeling. And it bothered some people, but I particularly liked it.
I see. Did you make some pretty good money on this one too?
Made a little, enough to make it to this day and age.
Wow, that's pretty good.
I mean, not alone, but I mean, I've made it, so I'm grateful for everything.
Spontaneous poetry, woman.
The soul of a woman. She touched me in stillness, no sounds could she hear, yet she smiled as she walked as if something within gave her eyes, gave her ears, gave her hope. And I who could see the morning sunrise did not see in life as much as she, could not hear the many silent voices.
Wow, all right. You know, it kind of reminds me of, I saw somebody else was able to do this one time. You know who it was?
No.
Paul Williams.
Paul Williams, the composer?
Yeah.
I know Paul, I love him.
You do?
Yeah.
I tried to get him to come on my show, but he was kind of busy or whatever, you know. He's a pretty big name.
I'll ask him sometime. He's a very nice guy.
Oh, he's a
very talented guy.
Very talented.
I Won't Last a Day Without You has got to be a great record, and Rainy Days and Mondays. And he wrote with Roger Nichols, who I also wrote with.
Oh, is that right?
And I also was under contract to A&M Records where he was, and he's a great guy.
Wow. Yeah, I attended a seminar and with Mark Volman from the Turtles.
Yeah.
And somebody in the audience said, well, how do you write those lyrics or something like that? He says, I don't know, it just comes out, and he just spewed out about 8 lines, and everybody in the audience kind of went, oh, you know, I mean, it was just perfect lines. I mean, it must be a kind of a gift to be able to do that.
Could I read something from the Life Symphony that I did with Dennis, because it's very important for me?
Please.
Okay, Dennis Wilson in Life Symphony. You passed through time like a rider from another dimension. You never were tied to things. You knew that material things could not be possessed, that they were only ours on loan. You knew that fame and its attractions cannot endure. You knew that the real reality was giving and love. You are free now. You have been released from time. You seem more real to me now, though I cannot see you. Life that is worthwhile, Dennis, that is your real message. That is what you wanted to do, to help the unfortunate, the crippled physically, mentally, and emotionally, those who did not get a fair shake. We talked about it many times. That's just a little excerpt from a whole book I wrote called Life Symphony, which was going to be a series of songs and poems and scenes that Dennis and I created that never saw the light of day, which I still am going to do someday. He was an incredible person.
Yeah, yeah. You also have another project coming up called You Can Soar.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
You Can Soar, I'm going to do with my partner Rupert Hitzig, who is my partner in a couple other projects. One of them is the Ooglebees. It's an evening of empowerment, and You Can Soar is like taking charge of your own life. You can soar. You are an unlimited idea of movement. You are a champion sprinter, a breaker of records. You can feel love through every pore of your being. If you want something, go for it. Go for it now. Don't put it off. Do it today. You don't have to lie. You don't have to cheat. You don't have to run away. You are not a helpless victim. Even though you're feeling down, your thoughts are not your masters. You can turn them all around. You can soar. You can reach to new dimensions. If there's negativity and depression in yourself, you can overcome it. You can reverse it. It's an evening to tell people that they can take more charge of their lives, not through some religion, but through love, or through a feeling that they rest upon a background, an ocean of infinite love that they can draw on. And if they go into the stillness of their own being and reclaim their power, that we can do many things to help the world, make it a better place. And You Can Soar will be a whole evening of music, song, dance, scenes to encourage people that I can soar, you can soar, you don't have to stay in your limitations, there is a way out. I mean, if you have a physical or mental problem, I'm not saying like faith healing, I'm just saying if you're mentally functioning fairly well, that a lot of the things are that you stand in your own way a lot of the times.
Where do you get your ideas?
Well, I believe that all ideas come from divine love, whether you call it God, whether you call it the creative urge, the creative impulse, and we are like receivers, like channels, like an antenna, and if we open our hearts up to all the universe has to give, I think this is the source of Picasso, Michelangelo, all art, Matisse, Beethoven, Bach, all great dancers. To my way of thinking, this is where art, where poetry, where music comes from. We think it comes from us, and to the degree that we think it comes from us, we limit ourselves. To the degree that we realize that we are in tune with something so much beyond ourselves, yet within us and without us, then I think creativity can open up and can touch the lives and hearts of others and maybe have a healing impact upon the world.
You know, it's interesting that you would say that in a way, because I've been reading a book. I've been reading a book by Dr. John Gray, who's that popular guy, the Venus and Mars book.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
And, you know, I know people kind of put him down, it's like he's kind of corny or something, but I get a lot out of his books. I think they're kind of interesting. And he was talking about kind of connecting with the God or universal energy by holding your hands out and through your fingertips, if you like repeat, "Oh God, my heart is open to you, please come into my life." And
it's
you
beautiful.
do it for about 15 minutes, and you'd be able to feel like tingling and the energy coming through your fingers. Well, I tried it, and I felt a little tingling in one finger. But, you know, I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of different ways to go about doing that, but I found it to be kind of nice.
Whether you say that as God or love or kindness or whatever, if you just open your hands to all those possibilities, all the good things, all the richness, that there is a notion of that available to you. You don't have to call it necessarily God or love. Call it whatever you want. Call it the part of man that wants good, that wants peace, that wants harmony, the highest part of our natures. And I think that you might, even if you don't tingle in your fingers, if you tingle in your heart, if you open up your heart, there's possibilities greater than you've imagined. And so he's onto something, but it's not a new idea, but we still need more of those ideas.
I'm one of these kind of guys who I like physical or very simple, real things. When somebody says, open your heart or tune into the life energy, that's all sounds good, but you know, like when you're on the freeway.
Give me a specific example. I'll tell you how I would handle it or what I think.
Okay. Well, keep talking for a minute. I have to think of a specific example.
Okay, because I think it can apply to the concrete situation. If you think of one and give me an example, I'll probably make it in a reality that's relatable to you, where you are, what you're doing,
okay,
what you're thinking.
Let me think of one here. 1 second. Spontaneous poetry. Death of lower self.
I'm thinking Candy-Face Lane of a poem I did. Candy-Face Lane below the gate is filled with only fright and hate, and has brought man to this terrible state. A candy kiss here, a candy kiss there, words no heart in them, nothing but air. Below the facade of the candy face lies the destruction of the race of all mankind, looking so desperately, hoping to find in the candy-filled dream a glimpse of the real, a hush of the scream. So how's the specific depression that you have, how's it going to apply?
Specific depression?
Or problem?
You know, can't think of really a problem right this second. How could a person know if they have a problem with money? They want more money. They're not greedy. I'm not saying win the lottery, but they need more money to pay their bills, or they need more money to, you know, their car is broke. And how could you use some of the things you're talking about? We have 2 minutes, by the way. Left. I know.
What I would do is that. It may sound crazy to you, but instead of asking the universe that you want something, I would try and give something to the universe. Give love, give kindness to people around you. And by your giving, you open up the law of giving within yourself. It may not sound pragmatic, but I know it works, because every time I've been able to do that in my life, when I've been at my last legs financially, and I tried to give something, my last quarter, my last $50 or whatever, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, then something opens up. But if you think you need something, rather than realizing that you sit on a bed of abundance, and as you open up to that, then things can pour through to you. That's how I handle lack. Because if you think there's lack in the universe, you're going to experience a lot of lack.
One more thing. Now, if you, there's probably maybe lyricists or poets out there who anything you have to say to those people that are maybe would like to get their poetry out there or write, or anything you'd like to say to other poets?
The only thing I would say to poets or dancers or creative people is write your passion, write from your heart, write with conviction. Try and do the things that you know, the simple things like how do you relate to your mother, your father, your friends, your brother, and
write about, I like that, write about simple things that you know already.
Start where you know. Start with things that are real for you and your friends, and then move out. Instead of solving the whole universe's problems, walk one step, walk two steps. And I think that's the way I would do it, because it's too big the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Well, these moments go very, very fast, where, believe it or not, we're out of time. But I like this show that we did. We didn't get to talk about your plays you've written and your work with other Smokey Robinson and other Russ Landau. And
you know what they say?
What?
They say, I guess it's not that important. The main important thing is that we keep loving, keep moving, keep going. So another time.
But I do feel, though, that we've gotten a good sample of your poetry, which is what I wanted to do more than another thing.
I don't feel like I'm doing it a lot. I feel like it's moving through me, and I just try and open up to it. It may sound nuts to you, but I really am very grateful for the ability to see, to think, to hear, and the gift of life, and that's what...
Well, we have 10 seconds left. Spontaneous poetry, animal.
The rhinoceros is dancing through the river with an open heart and mind, and is receiving all of the natural gifts of the universe, and it is becoming one with the life force that beats in it and without it.
The rhinoceros?
The rhinoceros.
That's cool. Okay, well, anyway, everybody, that was Steve Kalinich. Thank you very much. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks,
I really
Danny.
enjoyed it. It was fun.
It was fun.
And next, closing credits over a friend of mine, a rockabilly blues artist named Lennon Page. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks.
I can't quit you, baby, so I'm gonna put it down for a while. I can't quit you, baby, gonna put you down for a while. You know I love you, baby. I love you. The feeling